Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, this somewhat still works. um, the I'm a little rusty on how all these things fit together, but hopefully we can get through any rough edges. Ooh, that's hot. Hot cocoa is hot. Who knew? All right. Well, for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. This Advent season, we're going to be looking at various Christmas carols, kind of looking at maybe some interesting little bits of information about them, as well as using them for the purposes of devotional. So when it came time to decide which Christmas carol to start with, I decided where better to start than, of course, one of the Charles Wesley Christmas carols. And so we will start today with number 240 in our Methodist hymnal, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Now we will have plenty of different hymns about, carols about angels. So that's not really where I'm going to kind of focus this portion of the devotional. Where I will focus the devotional is going to be more for, there's one line in the carol which says, God and sinners reconciled. And so that's kind of going to be the focus of the devotion for today, but I'm going to share some interesting information about the carol in question. And this is from the supplement to the hymnal. In Psalms of David, the 1782 version of Nahum Tate's and Nicholas Brady's new version, Madan's alterations were used, and the stanzas were doubled, and the opening lines were set as refrain. John Wesley did not include the hymn in his 1780 collection. It was first included in the hymnals in 1786. Later editions suggested that it be sung to the Salisbury tune, or better known as Easter hymn. What makes this interesting is that, if you don't know what the Easter hymn is, it's the same melody that the song Christ the Lord is risen today. Christ the Lord is risen today. Hallelujah. And so I, just trying to think, it took me a while, let's see if I can do it, to sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing to that melody. Hark the... see, I'm trying to do it in the actual... Hark the herald... see, it's so ingrained. I'm going to get it. I swear I'm going to get it. Christ the... Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. That's all I'm going to try. Because it's so ingrained into how we hear the hymn. But... so that's just a little interesting tidbit of information that I thought I would share with you all. All right, well, one thing that I'm going to share with you, or that we'll read together, our scripture is going to be from Romans chapter 5, verse 10. If we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son while we were still enemies, now that we have been reconciled, how much more certain is it that we will be saved by his life? A lot of times I find it that the idea of Christ's salvation is used almost as a form of control. That you have to believe as we do or you will not be saved. And the problem with that mentality is it comes off as the, this conquering force. And it doesn't actually do justice to what Christ did. The way I like to think about salvation. See, a lot of people, when they think about salvation, imagine if you're trapped in a burning building. And then Jesus is there, and he says, "Follow me. If you don't follow me, you will burn to death." And so everyone either follows him or they burn. And the issue with that is that it just doesn't quite capture the salvation that Christ truly offers. Instead, and a little bit different, it's a fine point, but just a little different. Imagine you're in a burning building, and then Christ kicks open the door to escape and says, "Here is your salvation." It's just, there's a tiny difference there in that Christ is saving in the midst of fire without demanding some kind of fealty. When a lot of times when we think about sin, we just think, oh, it's just when people do bad things. But sin is so much more prevalent in our societies than that gives it credit for. It's almost, in the very essence of creation itself. It's there constantly putting pressure on us, constantly holding us back, constantly choking us. And what God did through Christ was to cut through all of that, to get through all that, just to basically blast through the force of sin and say, "No, here is your way to freedom from sin." So that's something that's something that's more important that we need to consider when we deal with sin. But that's something that we will examine. That's something that we will take a look at as we go through this devotional. But the idea that while the world was choking on sin, God sent Jesus to break through all of that for salvation. The line, "God and sinners reconciled," says, that right there implies that God is constantly reaching out for us, constantly working to save us from sin. It's not a case of a passive God who sent Jesus 2,000 years ago and you either follow him or you don't. But that God is constantly working in our world. He is constantly an active force for good in the world. And that's something that I'd like us to consider while we sing this hymn. So, without further ado, I invite you then to sing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing."
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic host proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh, the Godhead see, hail the incarnate deity, pleased with us in flesh to dwell. Jesus Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that we no more may die, born to raise us from the earth, born to give a second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory